7 tips for helping cope with divorce. Jackie Flynn here. We're going to start off with a quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So that takes us right to the first tip. Reflect feeling without judgment. Statements such as, you felt disappointed, or it can feel so confusing when, can really help a child feel understood and heard and validated. We really want to stay away from statements such as, you should feel grateful, or you should be happy because of. You don't want to should have on yourself or should have on your child. You want to make sure that your focus is on being present with your kiddo and not contributing to any more anguish and guilt or upset that can come with it. The second tip, create a consistent and predictable routine. Routines are such a biggie. Routines are consistent and predictable. Now, divorces can be unpredictable with lots of change. So routines provide that level of security that comes with knowing what to expect. Now, of course, sometimes plans change and things get out of sync, but make every effort that you can to keep a routine, just that, routine, for the kiddo as much as possible. The next one, remember your child is not a spy. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but let's face it, sometimes it could be tempting to get that juicy information from our kids about what it's like at our ex's house. But it can also be harmful to our kiddos. It can put a child not only in that awkward position, but in a position of feeling dishonest, kind of like a snitch, and it can definitely manifest itself in some really painful ways. It can leave them feeling guilty and cause unnecessary conflict with their other parent. And during this time, we want to create emotional safety. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. So your task is really just to distinguish what is necessary for me to know and what is spy mode. Now, spy mode is a close cousin to gossip. Many of you know that emotional rush that comes when you hear that juicy gossip. You just want to get all of the details. That is what spy mode feels like, and you can feel it resonate in your body. It has a curiosity piece to it. Well, if you know that feeling and you really know, hey, I don't need to know this information, this is just interesting to me, then stop in your tracks, change your thought to something else. And I'll teach you specifically how to do that in my course that's coming up that you signed up for, that thought stopping technique. It works really well, and it can definitely help out in this area. For example, a statement such as, what time did Daddy say he'd pick you up at school? That's information related. But spy mode may sound like, what was his girlfriend like? I bet her cooking is awful, right? So that has that icky feeling to it, that I just want to know feeling. All right, so the next tip, remember your child is not a therapist. Now, this one is a biggie, but it's often overlooked. Parents can feel so close to their kiddos and vice versa that they determine that their relationship is more that of a friendship. And kiddos don't necessarily need more friends in this type of situation. They need a parent more than a friend. And they can be left with that confusion that comes along with it. And if you share too much personal information, it can have a big impact on the kiddo. Information that could potentially create some emotional turmoil, such as just specific details or information regarding infidelity or poor character traits. Those things can just feel really good to get off your chest and tell someone, and it can have that cathartic feeling. And that's definitely a healthy feeling to have and a healthy process, but not to have with your child. That is way more appropriate in a therapeutic setting or a support group or a helpful friend or family member that can help you with that information that doesn't feel that firsthand impact about knowing that. Remember, our children are children, and they need that freedom to love and honor both parents without taking on that developmentally inappropriate information. Okay, so the next tip, seek therapy for your child and really for yourself if necessary. This one can't be understated. I've seen so many kids and families over the years, and I've seen what a huge difference that therapy can make. Now, kiddos think that they just come to work on stuff, or they may think that they're coming to kind of satisfy their parents' need if they don't want to come themselves, but it always ends up being so much more than that. It is so healing. And if we're tempted to just fill that role of a therapist for our child and think, oh, you know what, my child will just talk to me, we don't need any outsiders, that really kind of takes that option away for that extra level of healing for your child, because children can really be guarded with loved ones, especially with their parents, for so many reasons, especially during a divorce, because sometimes they feel like they've caused the divorce. Now, I say that, and that sounds really illogical and irrational to us as adults, but sometimes kids do feel like they've caused a divorce, and they may not feel comfortable saying that to either one of their parents, but they could say it to a therapist, a third party, and then that can be cleared up, and they could get that guilty, heavy weight off of their shoulders. That's a big burden to carry. And it is just so common that they feel that emotional pain on a vicarious level. If mom and dad are hurting, they hurt for their parents. So that's where talking to the parent may not be as beneficial as seeing a therapist. And seeing a therapist can look so different with many different settings. So I'm a play therapist, so I work with play and expressive arts materials, therapeutic toys, so they don't actually have to talk. They really share that healing experience to move on through this in a healthy way. It can really be a big game changer for you and your kiddo. All right, the sixth tip, co-parent with your child in mind. Now, this one can be complex, but the foundation of this is to really make any decision that you make with your kiddo at the center of it. Sometimes in those high conflict divorces, or even any type of divorce really, it can be tempting to use certain things as a tool to seek revenge or to get back. Maybe things such as custody time or sports events or things at school, things of that nature, in a passive aggressive way of just really getting back at your ex or your soon to be. But your kid is the one that suffers in those situations. So you always want to ask yourself, will this decision help my child? Now, that may require you to give in a little bit, to use some humility, a bit more than you're comfortable with, especially with someone that you are divorcing. But when it comes to really seeing who benefits, it's your child, and your child is worth it. Your child is worth kind of giving in and not having that need to be right satisfied. Okay, so the last tip is involve your child in an extracurricular activity. Okay, so recently on my podcast, Parenting in the Rain, I had a divorce attorney on there, and he was amazing. He's also a coach, and he talked to us about the correlation between single-parent homes and incarceration. But when sports are involved, it's a very different story, specifically team sports, sports that are like team-based, such as like lacrosse, soccer, basketball, football. They help nurture the kiddo's self-confidence, the self-esteem, and problem-solving with others, getting that inner motivation, all of that good stuff that sometimes can be at risk when a child is part of a divorce. So an extracurricular activity, even if it isn't a team sport, can really make the difference. And the good news is that a divorce doesn't have to damage your child. Kids can grow up happy and healthy and go on to have successful relationships if it's handled the right way by parents. That's why I really want you to take this information and implement it. Unfortunately, as emotions take over sometimes, and sometimes it's not contingent on just instinct, it really comes down to specific parenting strategies that are either not common sense or hard to learn and implement when you're feeling that emotional upset. They may not be in place. That's why I decided to focus on this for my free training, and I have a parenting course, Parenting Through Divorce, in the works too. So I'm really excited to get this information out there. Here's another quote that I love, Ernest Hemingway. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong in the broken places. And I think this speaks to the divorce. Now, I know I broke my leg once, and where I broke it, the bone actually grew back even stronger than it was before, like with calcium deposits. I think that a divorce works this way, even though it can be really, really tough. There are many things that, if handled in the right way, the child can come out strong. The child can come out really with that self-confidence, that self-love, and that self-assurance that I can get through hard things and I can appreciate life as it is now. All right, so remember that free training that you signed up for. It's going to be a great one, so I don't want you to miss it. In there, we're going to talk about how to create an environment that your kids will feel secure enough to express their honest thoughts and feelings with you. And this is so important, but remember in the tips I talked about that they may need therapy as well, so that's something to look into. But you definitely want to have an environment where they feel secure enough to come to you. That can help with really preventing or slowing down or addressing some of those biggies that can come through that manifestation of the toughness of divorce, such as emotional outbursts, relationship struggles in school. There can just be so many different things depending on the child. Also in that training, we're going to talk about how to create an environment that your kids will want to have open conversations with you and be accepting of your feedback. Now, sometimes those biggies can come out: anger, confusion, guilt, fear, sadness. They can just bubble up through the divorce, and our relationship with our kiddos can feel strained, and sometimes it can get ruptured. And sometimes it could go past the point of no return. So we want to make sure that we create that emotionally safe environment for our kids. And the other thing that we're going to talk about in that free training, how to listen and respond to your child in a helpful way when those emotionally charged behaviors come up. Now, sometimes kiddos can say some really hurtful things, or they can snap back in a way that leaves us feeling defeated. Some of those moments like, I hate you, or you're the worst parent in the world, that can really hit us right in the heart. Or they can ask some really tough questions that we don't know how to respond to, or if we're feeling pain ourselves, we may respond from that pain. So we're going to talk about that in the free training as well. And I'll have a Q&A session at the end. So that'll be your opportunity to ask me some questions, and I will definitely address what you want to know right then and there. Remember to save the date. That training is on June 2nd. 2016. There's the link, and I know this is a video. You won't be able to click on that link, but if you signed up, you should receive the email, but you could also pause this video and copy that into your address bar in your Internet Explorer or Google Chrome, whatever it is that you use. And there's my two website addresses, JackieFlynnConsulting.com, and my podcast is parentingintherain.com. Well, I look forward to seeing you in class. Thank you so much, and take care.